Welcome back to Press Here. You know you have a credit score. Banks and lenders, they track when or if you pay your bills and assign you a number. Well, it turns out you can do the same with drivers. Drivers in cars create a lot of data from their onboard computers, even the cell phones that invariably slip down between the seats. And clever people have figured out how to collect that data and make it useful. People like Gary Hallgren, who runs a company called Arity and has collected 55 billion miles worth of data from 14 million drivers. Gary is a leading expert in the field, having worked for a major car company and got his start at the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You said that Arity would like to score every driver by 2025. How are you getting my data that you'd be able to do that? I don't remember telling you you could have it.
There's a lot of ways to get the information. The company has been collecting data. I guess I'm going to start out kind of bigger picture.
Sure.
If you think big picture of risky driving, we all know that the driver in front of us that is a little bit aggressive, he's doing different sorts of things. We're concerned that that's unsafe, but no one knows really how unsafe that is. So Arity, growing out of the Allstate Corporation, we started to get data from people opting in, and they would opt into this information to share data with the company because we believe that the way that insurance used to be priced was more around.
Let's say I opt in, where's the data coming from?
It could come from your phone.
Okay.
It could come from a device that we give you in your car. But
I've seen that on TV. You put it in what's called the
OBD, yeah.
So I get off of work at 11:30, 11:45. I come to a four-way stop. I look, there's nobody there, and I can do a California stop and keep going. You know I'm doing that.
There's a little bit of that. And I think you're making it a little bit too, we're grounding too much in that side of it. I think the more important aspect is the way that people are priced today is it's more based upon who you are. So one of the biggest factors is your credit score. So if you knew that when you were speeding away from that light that actually because something went wrong years ago in your credit score, now you're paying extra for that, you wouldn't like that either. You would like to be paid upon what you do.
You are talking about all drivers at some point, aren't you? They're not all state Arity customers.
No, definitely not. Our belief is that over time this will be the way that it is done. It used to be that we had an idea that this would be more predictive. Now we don't think maybe might be. We know that this is more predictive, and we believe that consumers are going to want this. So today we have lots of people that are opting into insurance type programs. They're doing that across the industry. We're also talking to and working with companies like Life360 is a great example. Life360 is a company here in the Bay Area. It's a family management app. And inside of that, you want to know how your kids are driving. You want to know how your family is driving.
Well.
So we're collecting data from them today. Again, all opted in. We're totally behind the opt-in approach to it. But what we provide to them are safe driving tips. Now that you know your son or daughter is driving safely. More importantly, there's actually, we provide a collision notification service as well. So we get a report, maybe it's like once every other week, of one of their users that my son or daughter was in a car accident, was unconscious. There was one who was thrown from a car. There was one that, like, please, you really did a lot of good for helping.
I know John Swartz wants to ask a question, but I'm going to just sum this part of it up. There are lots of different places and companies that are collecting data on drivers. Totally opt in. I totally get that. And you are then buying that data from all of these different spots, including your own, Allstate link things, to create a picture of a driver.
I wouldn't say buying it. Again, opting in because we deliver value and people deliver that.
You're partnering with lots of different data providers.
They deliver that value
and then
back.
You're getting this, well, not actually very similar to credit scoring.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if you're partnering or working with any of the ride-hailing services. And the reason why I'm asking you that is a very biased opinion on my part. But the drivers, Uber, Lyft drivers, are not as accustomed, it seems, in the Bay Area when they're driving. So therefore, they make these crazy maneuvers. And I'm wondering if the companies themselves are looking at the accuracy or the safety of their own drivers and using that.
I think it's definitely an area to help them. So when we look at making transportation safer, smarter, more useful, we believe part of this is to understand the actual notion of the safety of drivers in a different way. Personally, I want my shared mobility driver, my Uber or Lyft driver, to get 5 stars because indeed they are a good driver and not just that the car didn't smell and they gave me a mint. So we believe that part is there. From the company perspective, you also want to know that. If you look at the way in the S1 of the documents that they did file, there's a huge part of their business which is around this. So I believe that we can help those companies understand who the better drivers are. If I can then attract the better drivers to my platform, then I'm going to be able to run a more cost-effective business.
As a driver, will the data help me pick which route may be safer? Because there are safer drivers on this street going this way when I'm driving to and from work or wherever I want to go?
We do. There's a little bit of, a lot of this is on the safety part of it is more coaching, that we see things inside of your behavior. A lot of this, again, is around transparency and it's around empowerment. If you want to drive safer, these are the ways to do it. But we do know, after 85 years working inside the Allstate Corporation, we do know where the safer roads are. So much like you can have the quickest way home or the shortest way home, there also is a safest way home.
Do you guys believe that people drive better, safer once they know they're being tracked? Even though you say it's about opting in, if I know that I'm, someone's watching me, I'm making sure and I stop. Yep, no, that light was yellow. I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to try to drive through and beat that red.
I think it's the awareness. So the more awareness that you provide for folks, then they can make those choices. The interesting thing is I think a lot of people have a perception. It's interesting, drivers. 80% of the drivers think they're better than average.
Yes.
Right? People think that everyone that's driving slower than them is an idiot and everyone driving faster than them is reckless. But what you don't see is they don't really understand what their score is. So we think that people, like you've mentioned, a credit score, people are going to want to understand what their driver score is.
Gary, I've got about a minute left. I want to ask you about connected cars. You've worked in connected cars. The FCC chairman is talking about perhaps taking away some of the spectrum that was allowed for connected cars and moving it over to Wi-Fi, because we all want faster Wi-Fi. And what's your position on that?
The way that I see the autonomous vehicles, a lot of that is for the autonomous vehicles that they can communicate to each other.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in the actual spectrum distribution on it, but there should be the ability in the future for the cars to talk to the infrastructure and the cars to talk to each other. But when I start thinking about autonomous cars, there's a lot of kind of buzz around it. And why do you like it? Just because someone picks you up at home and brings you to work, and then the car goes and brings your kid to school, and then brings your aging parent to the doctor. Well, we can do that today. It's called Lyft. Right? These sorts of services exist today, and it's really how it's changing people's mindset.
Let me squeeze you in one last question, and that is, when we do have autonomous cars and we do have all this technology that keeps us from bonking into each other, will our rates go down or will they go up? Because, nobody's... what happens to insurance?
Yeah, so we're the providers to the insurance companies, so they need to figure that out. Two theories could come into play.
Yeah.
One could be that the vehicles are more expensive, so maybe it's going to be more expensive for a while. But ultimately, we believe there's going to be less fatalities, there's going to be less incidents, but there's always going to be some, and there's always going to be need for insurance. Gary
Hallgren is with Arity and a car expert, and we appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Press here will be right back.